I want you to do this like sexy whisper over the top of it. Less is more, only when you know what more is.
Hello and welcome to the Home Recorded Music Podcast. Thank you for listening, liking, and subscribing. My name is Shane Blade, and today I'm speaking with the very talented musician, video game composer, and one half of the music duo Echo and Bloom. Welcome, my guest, Mat Dwyer. How did you get started with music? Why music?
So I'm 32 now. I've been playing since I was maybe 13 or 14. I started on bass guitar a long time ago. Playing punk rock. I find that punk is probably the easiest music to learn because it's usually four notes throughout especially on bass, it's usually four notes throughout the entire song. A lot of NoFX and Pennywise and that sort of punk growing up. I sort of transitioned from that into hardcore and metalcore, and I've played in a number of metal hardcore bands throughout my years. Moved into video game composition for a lot of indie games and sound design for those as well. And when I met Tay, my partner, who's also a massive musician, we decided let's combine those passions and start a little duo.
Did you have music in the family at an early age?
I think I'm the only musical one in my family. So we used to do really long drives in the country, WA, to get from where we live to like Perth. And I would say my dad cranking out Shania Twain was probably a big influence.
Nice. Is there like any particular sort of styles that you prefer or that you find yourself gravitating towards?
I'm one of those annoying people that says like I like all music, but that is true. I think there is amazing stuff and shit stuff in every genre of music, no matter what it is. I think always in music, even when I was playing, hardcore and that stuff, I love just huge walls of sound. And I think bands like Sigur Rós were really, really good at doing that. I think for a while they had the record for having the loudest concert just because their sound is so full. And that's what I take into a lot of my music, sometimes to a detriment, sometimes to my disadvantage, because, oftentimes simplicity is key. Jacob Collier, he's sort of like he's a young musician. He's won like a bunch of Grammys, and he's one of those people that's just an absolute genius when it comes to musical theory and perfect pitch and all that stuff. And I took a quote from him, and it is stuck with me so heavily. And it is, less is more, only when you know what more is. What I normally do is when I write songs, any song, I'll usually just stuff it full of things. And then as I sort of get to the end process of this sort of little bits and pieces of finesse in the mixing and the production of it, I'll just mute things and I'll go, do I even notice it's not there anymore? Mm-hmm. And when I mute it, no, I don't even hear it. Cool, it's gone.
Okay, that's a really good tip for anyone out there is pumping, putting as much in as you can and then just stripping it away to reveal the art form that is underneath all of that chaos, I guess. Now, you do composing video games. Could you explain that a little bit further?
I work on the side on mostly sort of indie, especially like, I guess, Melbourne. I've worked a little bit of international indie games, but that's just a side hustle that I've got going, which is sort of fused in between music composition and sound design for video games. The way game composing works is usually they'll provide references or ideas. I'll usually do like a pretty rough demo because I can pump out ideas pretty quickly, but sometimes you can spend days on something and it's not what they want, or you could spend 30 minutes on something and the vibe is right and you've got that vibe right. And so you sort of find out what that vibe is. Stylistically, I think you try and stick with the theme of whether it's, like if it's like a fire level or an ice level or something like that, you're trying to match that vibe. And I take that into my music, the listener to feel.
And is there any particular kind of instrument that has to be used when making a video game, or can it just be anything?
Yeah, these days, anything, mate. These days, sort of that old school 16-bit pixelated graphics is it's never really gone, but it's a big genre, so I think you're finding that balance between being able to hit that nostalgic vibe of that 8-bit, 16-bit sound in a modernized sense, because you need it to sort of come toe to toe with all the high value music production out there.
Now you've got you're in a duo band called Echo and Bloom, which I'm going to put the link in the description for anyone that wants to go and check that out. It's really good. I've listened to it, beautiful, and I watched a film clip of yours, and I thought it was really well done. Do you want to talk about that and explain how that came about and what the future of that is?
Yeah, Tay and I, we actually met in a musical. We met in Shret musical. We both do musical theatre and just became mates. And then after that show, went our separate ways. Years later, reconnected, and then started dating. And maybe like 6 months into the relationship, we decided to start writing music together. And that started as, I guess, like an acoustic project, more like that. Slowly over the years, we've been a band for nearly 3 years now. It's just developed and it's gotten bigger and better, I think, in my opinion. And we released our EP, I think, over a year now. That was written sort of over the course of lockdown, or just before lockdown hit. Sorry. That EP is about, I guess, our relationship, and to a greater extent, relationships in general. And it's kind of like a narrative of the soaring highs and the crushing lows of every relationship, and having to be there for one another and support each other. And it's pretty moody. That
With making that EP or any of the music for Echo and Bloom, are you doing the recording yourself?
This is a studio that I've made in my little bedroom. It's not the flashiest, but it does the job. But yeah, it was all done in a bedroom back at our old place. That EP, I mixed it and then we got it mastered.
What program are you using to record?
So I run everything through Presonus Studio 1.5. I've sort of used everything across the board of Pro Tools, Logic, Ableton. I think Studio One. I don't know. Yeah, not sure what it was about it, but that really clicked with me. I mean, I've been a Pro Tools user for well over a decade and loved it. But as soon as I sort of got my hands on Studio One and its easy interface and its sort of drag and drop design with its effects and instruments, yeah, I was just sold. It just connected to me, and it's a really quick and intuitive way of writing music.
A lot of people say good reports about Studio One. Some people prefer the Pro Tools, some people prefer Studio One, and I was talking to someone who's using Logic. Some people use Ableton. I mean, there's many programs out there that you can use, and there's other free programs that you can find online. Are there any plugins that you love, that you either put on a guitar effect or a piano or a vocal?
There are a couple of actually. I've recently upgraded to Universal Audio, and with their consoles, you get a suite of Universal Audio plugins, which are all sort of modeled on old analog compressors and EQs. And I use a lot of their compressors and EQs on the vocals. But with our most recent EP, I'll get it to a point production-wise where it sounds big. It sounds what I want it to sound like. My ears are fatigued. It's never going to be finished if I continue to work on it. So I'm going to get it to a point and I'm going to pass it off to someone who has fresh ears, listens to it, mixes, masters it. In terms of plugins, I use a lot of interesting sort of effects. I use a lot of filters, sort of like auto filters that add rhythm to whatever sort of sample, vocal or guitar you're putting through. And what this auto filter does, and it's a Studio One native plugin, is it kind of just it sweeps the EQ spectrum, but you can sort of program it to be a little bit arpeggiated with what it does. It sort of ticks in different rhythms depending on sort of what beat you set it at, and you can really sort of get movement in the simplest of things. I did in By the River Divided, which is the 6th song on our EP. I think after the first chorus, there's this kind of, it almost sounds like a DJ scratch, but right. that's me literally with this microphone. I think I actually just went, just did ahs. I just did a few ahs, bust them, ran that through the auto filter, and it sounds like a DJ scratching. So that's one that I do a lot with. I use, especially on our next EP, I use a lot of resampling of my voice, where I take grabs of our vocals that we've recorded and I put them into, again, a native Studio One sampler called Impact, but you can use Contact. There's a lot of samplers. I'll pitch them up an octave so that they're nice and high pitched. I'll add a lot of reverb and delay. I'll auto tune the heck out of it. So it doesn't sound, I don't want it to sound like a voice. I kind of want it to sound like a robotic echo.
Hmm.
And then I'll chop. What I'll do is I'll go through that sample and I'll just find different notes that I've hit throughout whatever that sentence has been, in whatever that phrase has been, and I'll chop up that phrase and then I'll mix up that phrase over, and then I'll use that as samples and sort of like melodic
Right.
inputs.
Love the technology that's at hand at the moment with things like that. How you can, I mean, if you wanted to do some kind of DJ or even techno, you could do techno with your voice these days by putting it through some kind of filter and sort of doing whatever it is beat you want to do, chicka chicka chicka, and you could convert that into drums, or you could convert that into anything really, like some kind of synthesizer or something. I think a lot of freedom to be able to sort of hear what's in your head and then just say it and then convert it into some kind of synth or whatever rhythm patch you want. Is there any particular vocal techniques that you use when you're recording? I've actually listened to your vocals and they're amazing. You've got a really good voice and you sing really well. So I was just wondering what if you have any vocal techniques that you can share.
So Tay and I, we're mostly in unison across our music. I would say 80% of it is both of us singing more or less the same note, but obviously it's different timbre and different pitch. It kind of depends. We tackle everything sort of verse by verse. What we want, especially with you can get help from auto tune and stuff these days. So for me, performance is everything, and it's funny because there'll be a lot of ideas that I'm asking Taylor to do when she's recording, and she can't, like, it'll be like, I want I want this phrase, like, you recorded the main bit, yep, it sounds amazing. I want you to do this like sexy whisper over the top of it, like I want, and she's looking at me like, why? I'm like, because it's all texture, everything's gonna be texture, like you're not gonna really hear it, you're just gonna hear this little flicker of whisper over the top of your voice. Like I'll put reverb on it and I'll put stuff on it to make it sound different. Not a lot of bands do male female unison the whole way through kind of thing in pop. There are, where we take great influence from a band called Oh Wonder, superb band out of the UK. It's all about getting that balance right, and you sort of automating volumes between the two, because, like, if I'm being honest, and this isn't self-deprecating, but Taylor is a million times better singer than I am. So a lot of the time I'll let her shine, and my vocals are sort of an accompaniment to hers. They add sort of a raspy gruffness to it that she obviously can't get. In terms of vocal techniques, we'll go through and we'll do demo vocals. So with this shotgun mic here and just sitting around, come up with sort of our melody ideas, and we'll have lyrics half written, and we'll just sit around the studio and re-record and re-record and re-record until we find like the melody and vibe that we want. And then we'll lay down demo tracks, and then rough harmonies and stuff. And usually what I do is, this is actually a nice trick, is I will 100% auto tune demo vocals, because what I find that's happened a few times is what the auto tune adjusts for me is not the note that I wanted to hit anyway. And so maybe I wanted to go up a semitone or up a tone in the vocal melody. The auto tune, for whatever reason, because I haven't been hitting the right key with my vocals, the auto tune will turn it down, or it'll keep it the same.
Yep.
And then I'll listen back and I'll go, oh, that was sick. So that's how I'm going to record it when we actually do the main vocals. Yeah. Yep. So that's happened quite a few times. So I'll usually auto tune heavy on the demo vocals and pull it back. And then the harmonies as well, we'll both do harmonies. We'll both do a low harmony and a high harmony. And then I usually do like an X panning. So on one side is my low and her high, and the other side is my high and her low.
Using a tool like autotune and, finding those accidental peaks or whatever, and then incorporating that into your own song. It's a good way to get another piece of inspiration.
I rely heavily on happy accidents in my music.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing. That's a great thing, that you can find your most unique kind of sound patterns and things like that. Spontaneity is the key to making music, I think. Is there any lessons that you've learnt recently that you can share with us?
Every song, every session on the same song is learning and making mistakes and assessing those mistakes, especially, that's like I said before, if I mix my own music, it's never done because I'm constantly listening to different music and getting inspiration and going, oh, that was sick. Like I can hear how they did vocal production or synth production or something. I take that and then I go back and apply it to my songs, and it's hard. I mean, I'm sure every single musician does this, where they listen to their old music and kind of, there's part of you that's proud of what you've done, but part of you that cringes because of the decisions you made. I think starting off simple is the key, because especially recently I've had severe writer's block. I think it's this pressure that we put on ourselves that something has to be different, it has to be unique, you know what I mean? And so we get there and I'll sort of be on the piano and playing an idea, recording an idea or something, never happy with what I'm doing because I'm trying so hard to do something different. When I sort of end up playing just 4 chords or whatever and doing a really simple melody, that becomes the foundation of everything that gets built on it. And then later on down the track in the song, you can strip that away. You can get rid of where you started, because probably by that time you've created this, like I said, foundation, this jumping pad, that when you're 50%, 70% through the song, you might have gone in a completely different direction. You might have written based on this easy hook, this easy sort of, even if you get a pad and a beat and you hum something over it, it all starts to snowball and it all starts to build into something. And then you will end up coming up with something, whether it's a sick chorus or post-chorus or bridge or a rhythm melody in your verse, that then becomes the core of what you're writing. And I think that's something that I've had to really realize, because I beat myself up a lot about not creating something new, starting to write something and going, oh, it sounds the same as everything else, or it's not different enough, or I'm trying to create something new. And it's just this weird like egotistical sort of mindset to be in, where, yeah, like I said, if you can just create something simple and easy, you've now created your jump off pad.
I totally agree. And I think that's a message that I try and implore a lot in this podcast, is just do something, create something. It doesn't matter what it is, because you can always not use it. For instance, there was my latest project. I ended up just like, I hadn't recreated for so long and it frustrated me so much. And I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to get on my bass guitar or the guitar and I'm just going to play a heap of just the most simplest notes or, whatever. I did 10 or 12 of them, of which then I can look back and go, surely one of them's got to work. Like, it's kind of like, just throw out all this stuff. Don't overthink it. Throw out as much as you can, and you're going to hit the mark at some point.
If you're songwriter or producer and you're recording using MIDI, you have no excuse not to just hit record everything. You're not using audio data, you're not filling up your hard drive with audio by recording. So you're like, hit record as soon as you start messing around, improvising, coming up with something new. Just hit record 30 minutes. You've got MIDI, you can move it later, like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's completely adjustable.
And because it's MIDI too, you can always flick a switch and you can change the sound to a synth or a drum beat or something that might inspire you in a different direction completely. So with all that being said, can I get you to shout out where people can find you, what your next projects are and all that kind of stuff?
We've had to take a bit of a break because we've just had a baby. So that was...
Congratulations.
Thank you. People can find us. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, iTunes, on all the majors. Our EP is currently up there. A newer single called Prisoners up there. We have 5 new songs coming very soon. I'm hoping for late August. The new EP will be called Colors in Motion. They're all happy songs. We've recorded horns, saxophones, trumpets, strings. Beautiful song about our baby in there, which I recorded the heartbeat from the ultrasound.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah, and so I've syncopated that up to some melody in one of those songs. I'm incredibly proud of the work that we've done for this next EP.
Echo and Bloom is the name of the band, and the links are in the description to all the places that you can find previous EP and a few singles on there. And make sure you subscribe to the Echo and Bloom on YouTube, because they've got a beautiful music video on there. It has been an absolute pleasure to talk with you today, Matt, and I can't wait to hear the new music. I think that's it.
Beautiful, mate. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, and Till next time, keep rocking, keep rolling. Rah.